Hey everyone, RogueGold here. We just got done watching the special report stream from the Division 2 developers regarding Project Resolve, this huge new update that is coming in Year 5 Season 3 for the game. There is a metric ton of stuff to cover. I have 5 pages worth of bullet points here for all these things that they are targeting for this update. So this video is just going to focus on the actual changes. I'm going to try and not give any of my thoughts and just go through what is actually happening. And over the coming days, we will do more videos kind of breaking stuff down individually, giving some more of my thoughts and all the things like that. There are also a lot of announcements in this, some not so good, like some things being delayed. Again, we'll get to all of it in the coming days, but for now, stick with me. This is what's happening. And if you like updates on the Division 2 like this and you want to see more, be sure to click that subscribe button. Like I said, tons more videos coming soon. Let's dive in. So they clarified right at the start of the stream that this report and Project Resolve is not focusing on new gear, content, etc. Basically, this is all about the health of the current game, improving what we already have. They are going to release full patch notes for everything here. Again, they didn't actually cover everything in the stream because there's just so much to go over. Whenever it is available, I will leave that linked in the description and comment and all that. Like I said, tons of changes. So they started with a preview and overview video of Project Resolve. Some of the big takeaways from that: it releases with Season 3 in February. It establishes a solid foundation for the game to build upon for future content. The PTS for it starts this week on December 15th. Again, we'll talk about that more soon. They aim to significantly improve the in-game performance and stability of the Division 2. I know that's going to be a big one for many. There are vast PvP improvements, vast PvE balancing, expertise cost reduction, improvements to projects, global events. There's so much. So to get a bit more specific, they said when they made the decision to switch to 4-month seasons and to tackle Project Resolve, their goal was to focus the entire team on improving the game performance and stability. That is the primary purpose of Project Resolve, which is crazy given we have another 5 pages of notes to go through, but that is the main focus. And Yannick said that Project Resolve fixes close to 2,000 bugs within the game. That's a lot. We'll see how it goes in practice. Because of this and because they focus the entire team on this effort, there is an altered roadmap. We got Year 6 content confirmed. Year 5 Season 3 is now going to be Project Resolve, and that's the Vanguard update in New York. Year 6 Season 1 is now just mainly including quality of life improvements. Year 6 Season 2 has Seasons 2.0 that was originally coming with the DLC in Season 4. And Year 6 Season 3 will now deliver the story DLC in 2025. I know that is a pretty major delay. Again, we're going to do further videos on this later on, but that's what you need to know. But switching back to Resolve, they say that this project in this update lays the foundation for all future content for the game to flourish more. There will be 2 PTS phases for Project Resolve. The first one again starts this week on December 15th, goes to the 18th, focuses on quality of life, balancing, PvP, changes to Descent, Summit, and Countdown. And Phase 2 starts on January 19th, goes to the 22nd. They will include feedback from Phase 1 in there, and they will also introduce the Season 3 gear, weapons, and talents for us to test. And according to this roadmap, February 6th is the full launch date for Year 5 Season 3 and Project Resolve, so, not too long of a wait, under 2 months. And it also mentions on this roadmap that Year 6 is going to include improved analytics and cheat detection, so that should be good news for PvP players. Diving more into Project Resolve, they kind of break down the overall changes into 2 categories. For PvP, they're aiming at status effects, the conflict, dark zone fixes, and balancing. And under PvE, they have global events, projects, quality of life, game modes, new features. And touching both of those categories is expertise. Let's start with PvP changes. They said their goal was to improve PvP combat, the moment-to-moment gameplay, and not make it just a matter of who shoots first, but they want to introduce actual ways to counter your opponent and their build. That starts with status effects. They say they don't want to nerf these to the ground. They are a very integral part of the building system in the game. Rather, they want to introduce more counters to make them more fair to combat in gameplay. The first part of that is introducing a new diminishing return system. This means that multiple applications of a same category of status effect onto you will have a lessened effect until you eventually become completely immune. They noted that this does not apply in PvE, but basically there are going to be 2 classifications, either a crowd control status or a damage over time status, and the diminishing return system applies to those 2 categories rather than individual statuses. So if you get hit by a burn and a bleed, those are both going to contribute to the same diminishing return stack. Beyond that, there are also new innate counterplay options for every status in the game, for PvP, again. So for burn, if you roll, once you have burn applied to you, you will gain a stacking amount of burn resistance. For bleed, if you stand still while you have a bleed on you, you'll gain resistance. If you start moving, you'll lose it. When you're shocked, you're no longer rooted, but you'll have slower movement while still not being able to shoot. Again, they said this is not in PvE, this is just PvP. All repair skills now will grant you 50% hazard protection on application. They want to make healer builds and support builds more viable and give them a bit of an outlet to combat that stuff. They're going to be making improvements to the booster hive, and now you will be able to use an armor kit instantly, however only for 25% of your armor. So in addition to the usual hold and get the heal method, you can instantly tap it and get 25% armor if you want that option. They said there are a bunch of fixes coming to PvP. This list is not exhaustive, but that includes the shield quarter peaking, that's been fixed, the ladder glitch, that's been fixed. Moving on to conflict, they said their main priority was to make it the purest PvP experience available in the game, and one way to do that and to make it more accessible for everybody is removing the shade and expertise bonuses from conflict. Additionally, they're improving conflict rewards. They said that they don't want you to have to compromise your progression or make sacrifices to your rewards for playing conflict, right? They say it should be as rewarding as everything else. They didn't give us any examples, but they said that will be improved. They want to try and tackle the spawn camping issue, and their current solution is to implement spawn turrets onto each of the conflict maps. Yannick said that they will monitor this and see if other measures need to be taken, but for now that's going to happen. And they're also addressing loadout switching in that you can only now do it once per spawn in conflict, so you can't go in and change your build 5 times while you're running around the map. You can do it once per spawn. For the Dark Zone, they said one big change they wanted to make was add more differentiation between the invaded and non-invaded versions of the Dark Zone. So to do that, in the non-invaded DZ, the Rogue timer will now take 5 seconds to activate instead of the 0.75 seconds that it currently is across all 3. And in addition to a rank 1 duration increase, they say that this should make it so that going Rogue is more of a commitment, more of an actual choice. And again, only in the non-invaded Dark Zone, they said once you go Rogue, you can no longer change your loadout or your gear, you're stuck with what you go in with. And again, they didn't give any examples, but they said that they do aim to make the invaded Dark Zone more rewarding since it is going to be the more hardcore Dark Zone experience now. Moving on to expertise, they are vastly reducing the cost of expertise across the board. They put up this chart that I'll try and show on screen here. Basically, they just said they want to make it a less grindy experience, so the costs are going to be greatly reduced. And this is in combination with greater ways to earn exotic components, which we'll get to later on. But overall, it's just going to be a much less grindy time doing this system. Talking about weapon balancing, there are vast amounts of balancing changes coming with this update. They said the goal is to not nerf the powerful stuff. Instead, they want to buff underperforming things to give players more options. And these come in the form of damage, mag size, and RPM changes to various weapons. Also, a very important note for many, you can now re-roll the third attribute on all exotic weapons in the game, including the old ones. Yannick said that they do know that this will result in most people rolling damage to targets out of cover. However, they do have things in mind for how they can maybe make this not so prevalent in the future. Again, we'll see what they do with that. They also mentioned that they don't want this to result in an over-buffing of certain exotics and named items if their base weapon archetype gets a buff. So they said those buffs won't apply to some of the exotics and stuff so that, balance doesn't get out of whack. There are vast amounts of improvements and changes to all of the different categories of weapons. Some very, random examples they gave. The F2000 under ARs gets 50 added RPM, 10 additional mag size. The P416 and the Eagle Bearer get a 50 RPM buff. The Stoner LMG gets 20% damage. The Dread Edict Marksman Rifle gets 15% damage. The MDR Rifle gets 10% damage, 20 RPM. The SRS and the Mantis get 30% extra damage. There is a ton of stuff, and again, that will all be in the patch notes you can check out. There is also gear balancing. They mainly targeted brand sets. They want to better reward the commitment for a player investing into a 3-piece brand bonus. So because of that, they said none of the first piece bonuses are changed across the board, but some of the 2 pieces and a lot of the 3 pieces are now altered. Again, a few random examples. The Empress International will now give the 2-piece 20% skill damage over 10. Bellstone, the 3-piece, will now give 40% incoming repair. Gila Guard, the 2-piece, now gives 20% health instead of 10, and the 3rd piece gives 3% armor regen instead of 1. Fenris gives you 30% stability over 20. Petrov, 30% ammo capacity over 20. Again, that list is not exhaustive. There is a ton more, and again, check out the patch notes for the full details. Talent balancing. They're also doing vast amounts of balancing to talents, whether it's exotic gun talents or regular gear talents or gear sets, lots of things. Again, they said they aim to improve the underperforming talents. They also specified that some of these will be PvP only, whereas some will apply to the entire game. So for example, the Doctor Home Exotic Rifle, the proc condition is now headshots instead of kills. The St. Elmo's is getting 50% shock ammo in the mag for PvP as opposed to the 100% that it is right now. Thunderstrike is getting reduced from 30 to 20% added damage. The Big Game Hunter on the Bighorn now gives you 4% headshot damage per stack instead of 2. Intimidate is now 3 stacks per second to a total of 9 versus the 1 in 7 that it is right now. Unbreakable is going down to 40%, again only in PvP. Foundry Bulwark is increasing the amount of healing that you and your shield can get, and it reduces the time it takes to get there. And the Technician linked laser pointer from the specialization is now giving you a 6-second duration of pulse compared to the 20 that it was previously. Again, that's only in PvP. So tons of changes across the board for balancing in so many different categories. Again, those are light examples. Check the patch notes. Let's move on to global events. They have drastically changed a lot of the global events. They said that all of them have been changed except for a golden bullet. And what they wanted to do was make the rest of them more fun and engaging and kind of leverage the success of golden bullet to make the rest more enticing. This includes changes to Guardians. Killing an angel now restores armor and adds bonus armor as well, and the damage buff goes from 30 to 50%. In Polarity Switch, the stacks go from 5 down to 4, so it's easier to get, and to compensate, the damage bonus is increased up to 25%. They said killing an enemy with the correct polarity will now reload your weapon, and hitting an incorrect enemy does not punish you like it used to do. It's only if you kill the incorrect polarity enemy. For Hollywood, they're tripling the explosion range, increasing the damage, giving you more signature ammo. For SHD Exposed, you now acquire stacks 50% faster. They double the pulse radius. In Reanimated, there's more explosion range, more damage. The headshot multiplier is higher. So in theory, global events across the board should be much more exciting, rewarding, and just fun. Moving on to projects, they are vastly improving project rewards. They are lessening some of the conditions, and overall, they just want to make them more worthwhile and engaging. Yannick said that ideally, projects should be the thing that players mainly check when they log on to the game, right? If they don't have anything else to do, and currently that's not the case. So for daily projects across the board, there's going to be more rewards. They will now grant you a small amount of exotic components, some named items, further things there. And similarly for weekly projects, the Dark Zone, Conflict, Descent, all of those, they're going to add some named items in there. They've reduced some of the objective requirements. Some of them will give you greater amounts of exotic components and exotic caches. So projects should now actually be a viable part of the Division 2's endgame. That's pretty sweet. New quality of life and new features to the game. Loot crates in the open world will now scale with your world difficulty settings. This is how the game originally launched with, then they reduced it. Now we're back to that. So they really wanted to promote exploration. So if you turn to heroic and you go loot those crates right outside the safe house, they will give you heroic quality items. They've also made a big revision and tackled skill mod inventory space. So the bonuses now can only be owned once, right? So let's say you have a turret damage mod, you will only own one copy of that per applicable slot. And let's say you own one at a 4% value. If you find one in the world that's 4.5, it's just going to automatically increase that one that you own. So you now will only own one skill mod per slot per value across the board. And again, that will increase up to the cap as you farm better versions out in the game. They've improved Stash UI to show capacity warnings and the space available when you approach it. They made a big change to the SHD watch that now caps the health bonus to kind of prevent the imbalance that we saw when there were exploits in the game. So the way it currently works is you get 30 health from levels 1 to 1000 every time you level up, and then after that it is 3 from, level 1001 to infinity. Now, instead of getting 3 after 1000, you will get 30 health from level 1001 to 2000, and then once you hit 2000, that is the cap. You can no longer earn any additional health. In total, they said that cap will now grant you 60,000 health, and that was the old value from hitting 10,000 shade level. So people who are already over 2000 but under 10 will be getting a buff. That should be fun, but overall that should reduce the risk of exploitation in the future. Tinkering is a brand new menu that you're going to have access to right in your player menu. It's not something that's at the base, but it's with you wherever you go. And what this does is it brings recalibration, optimization, and expertise together in one menu. The functionality is the same as it's always been, but it just presents it as a better and more interwoven look. And like I said, you don't need to return to the base now for recalibration, optimization, expertise donation. That can all be done right in your own menu wherever you are. They also said at the base that the recal library will now just be renamed to the library for better clarity. Some slight changes to optimization. They said that you can now only optimize an item or a stat up to what is stored for that value in your recal library. But because of that change, they are also reducing optimization costs by 50%. It's cut in half. So again, expertise, optimization, both drastically reduced. Moving on to game modes. The optimization has been improved for Countdown, Descent, and Summit, so that means better stability and better performance, should be less crashes. For Summit specifically, they have fixed the level 100 XP farm, so sorry for anyone that was still doing that today. And in Descent, they didn't give a ton of details, but they say that session length duration has been reduced. So the time to reach the Nemesis, the time to reach better rewards in the higher loops has been reduced. Again, we don't have any details. I guess we'll find out in the PTS. But additionally, they've also introduced a talent rotation, so they know that there is a problem with saturation of talents, right? There's so many that it's really diluted. It's hard to get the ones that you want. So now each week there will be a curated selection of talents for you to choose from, and that should either allow you to better get the ones that you want, or if the ones that you want are not on rotation, then you should be more encouraged to experiment. So we'll see how that goes. And finally, we got to the Q&A at the very end. Daria reminded everybody that the holiday event runs from right now until January 9th. They talked a bit about cheating, how it's being constantly monitored and detection improved. Again, that was listed on the year 6 roadmap, so far in the future, they are going to be doing some sort of greater improvements for cheating detection. Yannick also said that they are investigating Cronus Max usage. That's a huge problem on console. He said there's no promises of what they can do yet. They're still kind of looking at it, but at least they are. And they also reminded people that player reports help greatly in identifying cheaters. They say that they're banning people every day. They just don't come out and publicly brag about that. It's something they do behind the scenes. But you must always make a report to Ubi Support. The devs themselves don't have any authority in that matter, so be sure to do that. And the best quote from the stream was when Yannick said, "Don't be a dick, play something else if you're going to cheat." A few other questions they got in the chat. Expertise currently is not going to be removed from the Dark Zone. They said that since that is a PvPvE area, they still want your time invested in the game to matter, so that's going to stay. People asked about the crashes. They said a lot of the crash sources have been fixed for Project Resolve. He said it's impossible to fully eliminate crashes, right? That's just a nature of gaming. But as far as the vast amount of instability the Division 2 has seen over the past months and years, that should be primarily resolved with Project Resolve. Someone asked about new skills. They said none are planned for right now. No major specialization changes are coming with Project Resolve, as they previously explained, and as I've made videos on, that revamp was put on ice. Apparently there might be more changes coming with the endgame revamp later down the line, but they didn't talk about that. They said there are no further next-gen enhancements planned for right now, and lastly, they once again reiterated the release date for all of this, that Project Resolve launches alongside Year 5 Season 3, which again comes with the new season in New York, all of that stuff, on February 6th. And okay, people, my goodness. Is that a lot of changes? I think that's a lot of changes. Of course, this doesn't fix the Division 2. There are still things to be improved upon in the future. They reiterated that Project Resolve is not like a one and done. They don't see this as like fixing the entire game, but it should drastically improve a lot of day-to-day things. You know, your quality when you're playing PvE content, obviously PvP balance, big stuff. And then they will continue to iterate in the future, and they said this lays the foundation for the future plans they have, like with Seasons 2.0, like with the story DLC. So I think it's going to be really beneficial. But again, we'll do more videos. This is already running long, so I'm going to cut it off here. Let me know all of your thoughts down below. Again, there's a million different things to talk about, but let me know what you're thinking. Patch notes whenever they go live, I will include them here. And stay tuned for my further coverage, thoughts, and videos. There will be tons more in the coming days. That's going to do it for me today, everybody. Thank you all so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one. RogueGold. Ow.